I want to touch also on your wife when you were going to get married. How did you know she was the one? Like, can you give us tips? Like, how did you know that this is the woman for me, or this is the will of God for me?
I still asked God yesterday, are you sure she's the will for me?
That's interesting. Interesting one, yeah.
You know, the truth is, I'm a very transparent person. And not just with God, with every person I meet. And I tell God everything. There were sisters I liked in the fellowship, and there were people I was very close to. I never thought about marriage because I felt zoology. Which sister will ever want to marry a zoologist? Let me better go and look for work first, because all these sisters, they don't want to stake their future with a man that they don't know whether has a future. So I never even bothered about praying to know God's will or anything. When they tell me back on campus, I beg, you are a doctor, you are a chemical engineer. It's easy for you to marry now. Who won't marry zoo? You know, I had those feelings. It was during my NYC, I think even before NYC, my AGC then, Brother Usman, my GC, Brother Ali Masuya, Pastor Sunday Omonijo, who was our prayer coordinator at the time, they had met me at different times and more or less like giving words of prophecies that, look, you're going to be a very great man. Please settle this marital area of your life. And I was like, yeah, I pray too, and I read the Bible, and he gives me assurance that I'm going to be a great man. so but this marriage thing that you guys are just trying to pressurize me, I don't understand. So each time I tried to pray about marriage, I had goose pimples because women had never been my thing. I just didn't think about it. Though I felt loved, I felt appreciated. I was up and doing serving God, and I knew there were a number of people who felt excited by my presence. But it didn't just cross my mind that, okay, any of these things could translate into people having feelings for me until people then started approaching me.
Wow.
And yes, I had a couple of people who actually felt they were led to me and told someone who told me. And I can remember the first time I was in lecture hall and I kept sighing. At a point in time, my lecturer had to pause and he looked back and he said, "Victor, I hope all is well." I said, "Yes, all is well." He said, everybody said, "Yes, you'll be sighing things." And I'm like, "Really? I'm sorry, all is well." Because really, I was like, how can a sister think of me as in, who am I?
Can you imagine?
Well, I got to NYC, I knelt down and I prayed, and my wife's name popped up on my mind. Apart from then, she was my student during her JAMB classes. I taught her in class, and in fact, I disciplined her a lot then. So the thought of her being my wife never occurred to me. And when that came up, there was somebody else I liked, I loved, appreciated. And when I prayed about it, he said, no. So when her name popped up, I'm like, okay. But God, that means that's going to be a long wait because she's just starting medicine part 1. How long am I going to wait for before I get married? And number 2, how do I tell my former students that I wanted to marry her? So I told some of my leaders here in Lagos, and they just told me, just trust God. God knows how to work things out. So I was visiting Ife sometime, and then she sent me a message. You say, oh, she would like to see me before I left. And she put the message like, I'm sure it's an anathema for you to leave without seeing me. So I'm like, oh, really? And the way they throw spiritual lingos around on campus back in the day. And it wasn't just her. A number of other brothers and sisters just wanted to talk to me, at that point in time. So I was with her and we were having a conversation. And it got to a question. She said, oh, maybe when Mrs. Adebayo comes on board, she will feel free to ask that question directly to Mrs. Adebayo. So I told her, do you even know if you are the Mrs. Adebayo?
Wow.
And that was how she busted into laughter and said, you can't be serious. You can't be serious. And she was like, are you serious? So at that point in time, it was like, oh my God, what have I done? Do I tell her I'm not serious and lie? Because I had felt led to her. And Do I tell her I'm serious and then I incur the wrath of marriage committee per se? I'd rather offend the marriage committee than offend God. Come on. And, I told her yes, and I apologized. I told her, look, I know this is what the church process is like, but this is the prayers. And I told her clearly, I loved somebody else. I liked her, I loved her, and I felt she was going to be the one. I prayed it was not her, though she also felt led to me. But, well, somehow, based on the conviction I had, it was don't go in that particular direction, go in this other direction. But it was okay for her to say no to me because I valued the relationship we had as mentor to mentee versus, compulsorily has to be husband and wife. So please, if it's a no, I could even be making mistake for whatever. And she was like, stop trying to, play it all down. That she's had me, and if she has an answer, she would let me know. And that was it. So I came home, I told my pastor. He said, just go and report yourself to marriage committee. And I told marriage committee. And they were all like, well, it happens. You campus people, we understand how it goes. But then, some things happened. The marriage committee in Ife didn't like it. It led to a long brawl. Eventually,
and I think I heard about that one.
Pastor Kumi had to intervene, and he called everybody. Yeah, because the marriage committee was going to cancel the wedding, and they told me it can't hold. We need to postpone it. They were going to discipline me, and I'm like, why are you all suddenly turning around? Because the marriage committee in Ife is threatening to report you to the GS in Lagos. So you all are afraid for your positions, and I will be the sacrificial lamb so that you could retain your position. You've been very cooperative all along. So why this sudden turn around? Because Ife people were not happy that, I told her before I had come to them. And I said, this is the circumstance. So what was it? And, the pastor in Ife told me off badly. He spoke to me in a very brash manner. Even on the pulpit, people around were hearing. I felt embarrassed, but my district pastor had told me in Lagos, he said, look, let me tell you something. When you go and meet this man, he will abuse and insult your sensibilities. Never speak one word. I know us in the church. It is one of the wrong nuances in our church. And I know the average Deeper Life pastor. He will not spare you. He will use the scriptures to tear you down, to do everything. And just as he told me, so it happened. And when I came back, I told him everything. He said, didn't I tell you? He said, did you reply him? I said, no. He said, brilliant of you. So that when you get to the GS will say, is your elder, is superior, whatever he has said, you should not have replied him. And so the GS will then focus on you. So that you did not reply him, that was great. So when the MC was pushing to say, okay, they will have to still postpone this wedding. And I told them, no, it's not going to happen. They said the only person that can give approval is the GS. And I said, well, let's go to the GS. Everybody said, I said, yes, it's my father, so why not? So we went to the GS and they told the GS everything. And the GS said, and you disciplined him because of that? He said, yes. He said, please reinstate him immediately. Let the young man go and do his wedding and let nobody disturb him. Case dismissed.
I don't know. Thank you so much for being this vulnerable with this, because sometimes we revere some people in the church to the point that, because I know it was a sincere mistake, and most people that even heard about it may not know that it was it. Look at the way you said it now. From that context, it was something that came out, and then how do I answer
something I plan to go and do?
If I'm going to lie, if I'm going to, yes, I'd rather offend man than offend God. And I think this is really a good one for us to learn from. Thank God that GS really took it that way. So thank you so much.
We are getting better, and it's for me, I believe God uses every situation I pass through in life to be able to pass it. And He's told me that since I was in the university. And it's one thing I cherish is my personal relationship with God. I've had very rough times. I've had troublous times. But He tells me, look, you're going to speak someday and you talk about this. And I can remember relating this story during a YPF session. And people were wondering why I was still in the church. I haven't gone through some of those things. And I said, the first passage of the scriptures that came to my mind was taking no offense in all things, that the ministry be not blamed. These people were acting on the basis of the knowledge they had at the time. Today, I am friends with all of these pastors.
Can you imagine that?
So what shall separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus? Don't be. It hurt me then. It really hurt me. My wife cried then. She told me the pastor called her, very unprintable names, referred to her like a prostitute. It was really, really tough. But I just said, what, let's just calm down. Let's not further escalate this. Let's just let it be and all of that. Sometimes how I navigated that period, I can't tell. But at least I'm able to relate that story, to be able to encourage other people. Don't let the devil set us up against each other. Somebody the Bible said, and then the devil entered Peter. Peter was born again. But, he started rebuking Jesus. You won't go to the cross. You won't do this. You won't do that. But there was some other strange spirit behind it. Sure. Temporarily, the devil could manipulate some of us to do certain things. The grand aim and scheme of things is to make us derail from the faith. Don't give in to allowing him do that for us, using us against each other. We may have that misunderstanding. Reach out to people who can encourage you. And then as time goes, we all know in parts. Some people, I have heard stories of some other people whom their pastors came back to them years later on to apologize to them on the position they took at certain instances in their lives. So, we are humans. Only God is perfect. So we learn from it. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it hurts. I'm a victim of it too. And I've just summarized it all. If I told you all the things that happened then, I'm sure somebody will pick up a gun on my behalf. But you know what? We are where we are today by God's grace.
Going through all of that, it really takes courage to step back. And it's beautiful because you can share your story today and you can show us a more excellent path to take.